So it's my coworker Chris. My name is Wesley Chun.
Hello.
We're on Google's developer relations team, and we represent Google Cloud products. App Engine is the first cloud product that we launched. There'll be plenty more coming soon.
Can you guys hear me okay as well? Now that I got my mic on? Yeah. Thumbs up. All right. So shall we kick it off?
Yeah, I just did the intro already.
Awesome. I was like, anyway. So as Wes was saying, we work in the developer relations. I'm a developer advocate. Wes is a developer programs engineer. We do pretty much very, very similar stuff. We reach out to essentially build developer ecosystems. We help companies get on board with Google technologies. We focus specifically on our cloud technologies. So today we're going to be providing a general overview of App Engine. So granted, if you worked with App Engine before, some of it might be stuff you already know, but there's definitely some new stuff that we want to talk about. Also, I think we want to use this talk as kind of like a plug for our lab that we're doing later today as well. And we definitely invite you guys to come down. We have some new content. We created content a while back, but then for Google I/O just recently, we have some new content that we'd like to have you have some fun with. So definitely App Engine, some fun stuff we'll be doing in the lab today.
Exactly. It's just an extension to, if you guys have done the online tutorial, we find that great to get started, but it's kind of boring. And so that's why we created these code labs. So it takes the existing online tutorial that lets you build the guest book, and we add more uses of APIs on top of that. And then as Chris mentioned, we added some new things over the last couple of weeks on top of that. So there's actually 3 parts to it all. The guestbook tutorial, the guestbook tutorial plus, and then this new material that we're going to introduce to you guys for the first time this morning. At 11:45 is the lab if you're curious. So just bring your lunch because it takes place around the lunch hour.
Yeah. So if you want to play with like task queues, URL fetch, cron jobs, deferred task queues, actually, and as well as the channel API, definitely recommend to check it out. So channel API is really cool technology. I'll give you a demo of it today as well. Also, we do have our feedback QR code, so if you want to give us like live feedback as we're talking, and then we even have another one in our lab session today. And I'll have this slide out also at the end of the presentation, so you can take a quick shot of it if you need to. And then you can also see the URL. It's a little bit hard to see, sorry, but should be okay. All right, let's jump right into it. And we do go until 10:30, right?
9:30 to 10:30.
Okay. So, and feel free to jump in. I'm just going to kind of give you guys a bit of a high-level landscape view of where Google App Engine fits in. So if you're familiar at all with cloud technology, the analysts have generally, and it's actually not just the analysts, but the overall software development community have divided it up into kind of 3 categories. So at the top, you see software as a service. So these are the applications that you guys are familiar with, like Google Docs, and just going online and using productive, cool technology entirely in the cloud.
Right. And in fact, you have to have a web browser to use these. And that's the only way. It's not like having an Outlook application on your desktop to check your email. You're actually logging in and checking your Gmail, your Yahoo Mail, or your Hotmail. It's something that you have to use online. So that's software as a service.
Yeah. And so how do you build a software as a service? Well, you can drop down a level and actually have a software development platform as a service. And that's where Google App Engine fits in. Now, I'll get into the infrastructure as a service in a second, but App Engine itself is referred to as a platform in the sense that it's an entire development platform in the cloud. So you don't really have to focus on lower level infrastructure, setting up like your lower level servers and stuff like that. You just rely on the platform itself, and you focus entirely on the application logic itself. Okay? So you can see App Engine. It's also got various other peers in that realm of cloud computing technology. And then, of course, probably most people are familiar with the historical cloud technology. So if you've worked with Amazon EC2, Rackspace, VMware, and so forth, those are essentially, they give you a virtual machine in the cloud. And that's pretty much what I would say probably the majority of people when they were just getting started with cloud technologies would be using. We like to think that App Engine is actually more productive in the sense that you can actually just jump in, create an app very quickly, deploy it to the cloud, and not worry about all the infrastructure stuff.
Exactly. So you can think of infrastructure as I'm renting devices online. I'm renting machines, VMs, I'm renting disk, power, cooling, Ethernet. With the platform as a service, you don't have to worry about that, right? You only have to worry about your app. No, you don't need to think about operating systems. You don't need to think about networking. You just write the app and you upload it and host it. So, yeah.
Do you want to take this slide first?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, so probably the main point that we like to stress is that App Engine, it's easy to build. You don't have to worry about the infrastructure, easy to maintain. You have a cloud-based dashboard that you can work with. And of course, most importantly, it's easy to scale. You don't have to actually physically or even go through a UI to start building up your infrastructure in the cloud. It can automatically grow as your business grows. So these are pretty much the three main points we like to stress, essentially. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about where App Engine is today. App Engine, as you may know, launched back in April of 2008. And
so it's 3 years old.
Exactly. So we just passed our 3-year birthday. We have some actually fairly, you may be surprised to see some of these numbers. We have a very large developer audience, over 100,000 active developers, and that's not the total mass of developers that go in and sign in to build an app. Actually, these guys are actually working and having traffic on their applications. And as you can see, the slope is not linear. It's actually continuing to go up. 200,000 active apps per week. So obviously we have thousands of apps that are doing multiple different things, whether it's a front-facing web app, whether it's some sort of web service, or some sort of back-end service to a social or mobile app. They come in all categories. And so as you can see here, we just continue to grow with more and more applications overall.
The Hello World thing that you guys tried and just let it sit forever, that's not one of these.
That's right. That's right. And we've actually just surpassed 1.5 billion page views per day.
This is across all apps on a daily basis.
Yeah. So on a daily basis, keep in mind. So it's not just once at a time. So who are these people building all these apps? Well, we have a very large database of partners, users that we interact with. We even have kind of like a core set of people that we literally talk to almost every day. So yes, we have thousands of partners, but we do have kind of like a high-level set of people that we interact quite a bit with. And so you may recognize some of the names. Some of them are more traditional applications that are enterprise-y type of applications. Also, there's many applications that are in the gaming space, and then of course social. Social was one of the very important audiences with Google App Engine back when it launched in 2008.
Right. Well, the other thing is, if you look at the list there, you'll see big names like Best Buy and Forbes and MTV. But of course, they don't run their entire website off of App Engine, but they do run certain components of their website on App Engine.
Yep. So I'd like to kind of point out one of our partners in particular, and they'll actually be talking at our session tomorrow. What's that?
And I think they also have a sandbox.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. So WebFilings is one of App Engine's most important partners in the sense that they've done an awesome job by building a SaaS application that allows companies to file their financial results to the SEC. So the first time we invited them over, they gave us a demo of their application, and we were all, wow, this is amazing, hats off to you guys. And they've been able to take their very rich, helpful application and really be successful in Fortune 100 companies. So if you go to their website, you can just look at their list of partners that they are now signing on, and their growth rate is very similar to App Engine. It's going by leaps and bounds, and so they've actually had quite a bit of success in the Fortune 100 companies. So I think it's important to notice that App Engine, it came maybe traditionally from grassroots developers, social, gaming, but it's now working itself into enterprise adoption, essentially, and having success.
So App Engine is sort of maturing from just a developer tool or a developer toy into something that real companies do use for real business. You can imagine how fun it is to create SEC filings every quarter, right? So these guys have come up with a novel way of making it. Well, they found a way to actually sort of make that more pleasant for these companies. So they're signing on pretty quickly.
Yeah. So BuddyPoke, this is one of our historical partners. They have numerous social apps out on both Facebook and all the other social networks. So yeah, this is kind of like the traditional core, original types of partners that we worked with. And of course, gaming, we have a number of folks out there that are building back ends, front ends with App Engine in numerous manners as well. And then you may have noticed a certain wedding a little while ago. Actually, if you had watched the news, Google App Engine actually provided the official royal wedding website. And so as you can see, on the wedding day, had up to 2,000 requests per second, 50 million page views, 5.6 million visitors. And so there's the actual short link there, but you can go and even Google the Royal Wedding website, and you'll be going to an App Engine application. Incidentally, one of our engineers actually created the blog application that is running it. So it's entirely a homegrown solution in that sense. All right, let's jump into the App Engine details. So a bit of the technology. So obviously, if you work with App Engine, you understand like the key components. But if you're new, we like to think of it as SDK in a box, or cloud development SDK in a box. So first of all, you get a downloadable SDK. You download it onto your machine. That SDK has the capabilities. Well, you can either download the Python or the Java SDK. And those are the two core languages that we support. And then in order to build your applications, you can pick whatever tools or use command lines or what have you. But we do offer, like on the Java side, specific support for Eclipse. So our team has actually built a plugin specifically designed for Eclipse. We also have third-party IDE plugins like NetBeans, IntelliJ, and so forth that are built out there that you can use as well. Now on the Python side, there's also this nice utility called the App Engine Launcher, which allows you to create, debug, check the logs, and also deploy your application on the Python side as well. Now, these are tools that augment what you could already do command line as well. And then, of course, the whole magic of an App Engine is you got all these great services that you can use. So you go through the documentation, you can use high-speed memory caching, Memcache. You can use the backend data store, which is based off of Google's Bigtable. And we're continuously updating these new services. And they're all made available for you immediately as you build your app. So you don't have to go through, like on the Java side, go out and fetch jar files and kind of rig your application in a kind of a Frankenstein manner. All this content is there ready to go for a wide array of services. And of course, the other very important point is that once you build your application, you can test it, debug it locally. You even have a mini dashboard to check like the various elements of your application. And then once you deploy it, you have a dashboard in the cloud where you can go through and check the logs, check the overall health, see what kind of warnings, errors, and so forth that's come up. And then, of course, check the overall traffic once you get into an operational mode. And that application in the cloud, you can also kind of manage the financial aspects, manage the growth of the application in general. Okay, anything else? These specialized services, I touched on just a few, but as you can see, Memcache, high-speed memory, data store, URL fetch, task queues. So literally a very rich palette by which you can build your applications from the get-go. So you can build your app and just immediately use some of these services. And we have a lot of documentation out there that allows you to jump in and just get busy programming. And so we'll show you some of that stuff today in the lab assignment.
So one of the reasons why we give you all these services is you need to understand whenever you're writing an app in the cloud, you're actually sharing all these resources with other cloud developers as well. And we certainly don't want you to be able to break into other people's apps and be able to steal their data and vice versa. We want to keep all your stuff safe. So what that means is that your app needs to run in a sandbox, a controlled environment by which you can't do certain things. So it doesn't help violate security and things like that. So things you can't do are like you can't create a local file, you can't make a system call, you can't open a socket connection. All right, so those things sound kind of restrictive because if I told you that to begin with, you would say, well, what the heck kind of app am I going to write? If I can't even open a socket, it's not going to be really useful, right? So you have to ask yourself the question, why would you want to open a socket, right? Maybe you want to send email or even receive email, or maybe you want to talk to another app that's online. So that's why we provide these higher level APIs to sort of proxy for that missing functionality. And of course, if there's something missing, feel free to give feedback to the team. And based on how popular the demand is for that feature, we'll try our best to get the product team to implement that. So that's the reason why we provide all these. It's not just a sales pitch like, oh, we got this API, we got this API. These things serve a purpose, and that is to sort of get around the sandbox, or not actually get around it. It's to substitute for something you can't do because of the execution environment that you're in. Does that make sense, everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Again, it all boils down to scalability. And so there's reasons why some of those things are a little bit more restrictive, but they're meant so your application, and it's also good for you, it can actually scale to thousands, just literally global traffic entirely.
Right.
So let's talk about our language runtimes. As you know, we have Python support and Java. So these are both the built-in native support within App Engine. We actually build out the interfaces on both sides, and we keep them both essentially on par with both of them. Sometimes maybe there might be a new feature that comes out in Python, but then Java will then catch up. And then vice versa. There might be a new feature for a temporary time, and then the Python catches up. But it's very nice, though, because for us who actually kind of bounce on both sides, it's nice to see the parallel support that our teams are putting together. And it keeps the knowledge still the same. So the core concepts are still the same across the board. So if you understand App Engine on the Java side, it's really not a big stretch to jump over on the Python side.
But the vice versa is probably not true.
A little bit might be a little harder.
I'm not balanced at all. I'm unbalanced. So I'm mostly all Python, and I don't know too much Java. And every time I look at Java, it scares me. But I can see how it's so popular.
Yeah, it scares me too. But anyway, so as you can see on the Java side, we do provide the familiar interfaces. So this is basically allows any typical or standard Java EE developer to go ahead and use the same patterns, methodologies that they're familiar with. So using servlets, if they want to use JD or JPI, they can. We also do have a low-level API across the board where you can jump in directly and just use those APIs. And we actually have the BootCamp lab, Ikai is running, right?
Yep.
At what time is it?
It's later this afternoon. It's like I think 1:45 or 4 o'clock. I think he's running 2 sessions. So if you are already an existing App Engine developer and you're still having problems totally wrapping your head around the data store, he's got some really good exercises for you to kind of just jump in and get knee deep into it. So
yeah, definitely recommend it. Okay. So yeah, basically the bottom line here is that Java developers can feel comfortable using familiar interfaces, but they can drop down even to the lower interfaces. Sometimes you might actually see some slight improvements, like the data store API is actually a little bit better on the low-level API at the level. All right. So because Java support has essentially a virtual machine running behind it, that allows you to even have other languages. So you can write your applications in Ruby, PHP, JavaScript, Python, and really any other. Actually, I gave a talk about 2 months ago at a CFML developers conference, believe it or not, Cold Fusion Markup Language, because there's actually a runtime, a Java runtime that will essentially execute CFML, and people are now, there's like this community of open source CFML developers that are building nonprofit websites.
There are people using Cold Fusion?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I used it too back in the day.
Okay. So one thing about the PHP is that people think, oh, this is full PHP support. No, not quite. All right, because App Engine runs on a non-relational data store, you can't exactly, embed SQL inside your PHP code. You still have to talk to JDO and JPA. So your PHP is going to be a little tweaked. It doesn't perform as badly as you may think. It actually performs quite well. However, you still have to kind of change your way of writing your PHP code if you do want to choose and use that. The last one you might think is kind of odd. Like, why would I want to write Python and run it on top of the JVM when I can use the native Python library? And one of the main reasons for that is you could have spent the last 6, 7, 10 years building out all of your Java classes and infrastructure, and you really don't want to port everything over. But you do want to take advantage of Python's rapid development. So using Jython, you can actually, instantiate Python classes as well as Java classes and make them talk to each other. So that's one of the reasons why you consider Jython.
Exactly. Nice. So let's talk about the platform. Hope you like the shoe.
He spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah. So actually, truth be told, I had another slide that was oil platform, but it didn't work, and so hence the You're like, oh no. Anyway, I'm proud of my little creation there. So Wes liked it too, so we kept it in. So
at 2 in the morning, I liked anything.
That's right. Anyway, so yes, let's talk about the platform in general. Oh, you want to take a picture? Go ahead. All that hard work on Photoshop. Okay, go ahead.
You're just feeding his ego now.
Easy. So anyway, let's talk about the platform. So first of all, as I mentioned, you get the SDK. You can build it, debug your application locally, and then you deploy it to the cloud. And this is where you get a really cool App Engine dashboard. And so I'll show you, how it works. But basically, you get all of the important information, all the management stuff, at your fingertips, all in the cloud.
Oh, come on, that's a sales side again. Why are we really doing this? Again, you're executing in a sandbox. It's a restricted environment. Oh, I don't have access to my logs. Oh, I can't dig. I can't write my own metrics tool. I can't rewrite a reporting tool. Okay, those things are bad. I mean, you're not used to that if you are doing traditional hosting. So if you're going to host with us, we need to give you something that you would find useful to kind of make up for that. And that's what the admin console is. And actually, this diagram is about 2 years old, believe it or not. It does tell you a lot of things still. You know, it shows you like how much usage you have, how close you are to the end of your quota, how much it's costing you, all this kind of stuff. But you know, since then, we've actually added a lot more features to the administration console. Yeah. So, but that's just a snapshot view of what are some of the numbers that you do get to show you like the kind of traffic you're getting, what your errors are, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So.
We also provide a general system health web page as well. And so if you want to just check up on any of the various services, you can go to this overall App Engine system health web page, and it also provides kind of like a historical look as well.
Just keep in mind that this is for all apps in the entire system. So if like your app is running into any kind of difficulty, maybe all the other 199,000 apps are not. So you'll still see green check marks, and then you're going to be mad because it doesn't reflect your particular situation. So just keep in mind that this is a global overall system type of thing and not necessarily just tied to yours. And depending on the various thresholds that we have, these things can go from the green check mark to one of the more warning ones and then go back like within an hour. You don't really know what's going to happen. So don't rely on this completely, to help you manage and monitor your app, but it is an overall system view to give you an idea of how well the whole thing is behaving overall.
So let's talk about the tools, the development tools for App Engine that you get. So as I mentioned before, for Python developers, now of course you can work in command line mode. You can develop entirely without even touching a development tool. But for Python, we do provide a simple utility. It's not like obviously an entire IDE, but if you want to quickly create a brand new template app that gets you started, go through and as you're debugging, look at the logs. And then, of course, when you're ready to deploy, it offers essentially a simple deployment utility that plugs you in. So a simple time-saving type of utility, essentially. Now, I should also say that as you're debugging your application locally, we actually do provide a local SDK console. So this comes in handy if you're working, say, on Python and you want to check your cron jobs, your task queues, and see them actually running locally. You can do all that. And of course, most importantly, if you're using the data store to check your data, you can actually go in, see the data, and you can update it literally if you need to. Now, on the Eclipse side, for you Java developers, we do provide a very helpful tool. And similar to the App Engine launch utility on the Python side, it does like the core things, like allows you to create a very simple starting application, and of course deployment as well. But I think probably the most value add in this case is that you're using Eclipse IDE, which is obviously very popular. You get debugging support, get essentially a very familiar Java development environment. And this is what Google provides. There's also, as I mentioned before, third-party tools, IDE plugins for NetBeans, IntelliJ, and so forth. And so you can use those as well. I should also say, if there's any Google Web Toolkit developers out there, there is like a certain level of integration support within the plugin. So it's actually meant for both Google Web Toolkit developers as well as App Engine developers. And you can decide if you want to create, say, like initial starter application using both technologies together or just App Engine by itself. Now, for our labs that we're going to be doing later today, we're going to be focusing purely on App Engine, but I think there's other stuff that we're going to be covering both of them together. So definitely recommend checking those out as well. So let's go ahead and just do some like simple work with App Engine. So I'm just going to create a, so this is Eclipse. So I'll do like a real simple Java stuff, and if you want to play around on the Python maybe, or I can just fire up the App Engine launcher to do something really simple. But just to kind of get started, I can do a File, New, Project, and then I can select Web Application Project. Now, of course, I could also just click on this little handy button here, which is what I'll do right there, New Web Application Project. And I'll call it Hello Boot Camp, or I'll call it IO BootCamp. There we go. And I'll give it a simple package. So this is essentially what you can do after you've downloaded the SDK and you've set up your Eclipse environment so you're ready to essentially start building an application. Now, I can actually build and run an application even before I've even registered a brand new in the cloud placeholder. So I'll show you that process in a second, but let me just start with something real quickly. Now, this is that thing that I was talking about. For now, I'll leave this off. If I turn that on, that will add additional example code on how to work and build a Google Web Toolkit application running on App Engine. Okay. So I'll hit Finish. It'll create my simple project. And it really is a very simple project, just so you can have a look. All it really does is set up with a very simple servlet that responds to a GET request and says hello world. But this is a very helpful application in the sense that you can then very quickly augment what is here and add more services as you continue on. Now, of course, I could hit the run button and just run it and see it in a browser. But to kind of give you a feel for, like, I think the value add that you get with an integrated development environment like Eclipse, I'll just go ahead and hit the debug button there. And that fires up the web application in debug mode. I'll open up the browser, go to the, so I have a welcome file. Actually, the application generates a simple index.html, which is a welcome file. This has a link to the actual servlet that I pointed to. As I click on it, I'm actually now doing the GET request to the associated servlet, which is now responding with the hello world message. So I'll click on the run button again because I've now paused the execution. So for those of you who are not familiar with Eclipse, bear with us, but basically it's basic Eclipse debugging. Now if I go back to the browser window, I can now see there's there we go. Basically hello world right there at us. So that's a very simple demo of how to get started with an application. What I can do now is, let me switch my perspective back to Java perspective. Now, if I wanted to then go out and create a brand new application, I would log into my cloud application dashboard. So in this sense, I've logged into my external Gmail account. I can go ahead and create an application. So I can say IO BootCamp. I'll just put like my name on it. So this is a new application that I'll be creating on the fly. And I can, let's just go ahead and create it. I can use that later on today anyway. So now that I've created my application, I can go to the dashboard and look at the application. I can see, obviously there's no traffic on it yet. Now I'm going to take this application ID, or application title. This is the, or actually right here is probably more correct. This is the thing that links my application that I built locally to the cloud version of this app. Now, as you recall, this is still empty. It's a placeholder right now. So I'll go back to this application, and I can edit my App Engine-web XML and add the application there, or I can just do a quick click and go to Properties, and then I'll click on App Engine. As you can see, I got a little spot there to add my application ID. So I'll place that there, and at this point, we're good to go. We can actually click on the little deploy button, or I do right click and deploy too, but I'll just click on it very quickly. I'm going to hit on the deploy button. It's then preparing my application, getting it ready for upload, and then it's now deploying the application in the cloud. So sometimes on the longer or larger applications, it might take a little bit while, but typically it's anywhere between a minute or 15 seconds, depending. So I'll give that a few seconds, and then the other thing that I'll do is prep up my first access of this application, and I'll just like query it. So there it is. It's now live, and I'll click on the little link there, and there it is. So I actually built an application from scratch and deployed it to the cloud within just, I don't know, a few minutes or so. So anyway, let me switch back to our presentation. Oh, Python side. Do you want to do a little simple stuff? I can fire up the App Engine launcher. And we can do a simple application creation here on this end if you like.
Oh, sure.
OK. So let's see. IO BootCamp. So I'll just give it like a real simple hello.
That's simple?
IO BootCamp hello. Sorry. Actually, I think I'll put this in my Python App Engine.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So anyway, so I created a very simple application. I can click on the Run button. That fires it up. then also what I'll do is pop open the Finder. And I think I actually created it right here. There it is. So these are the main files that you get started with. The main.py file. I'll just pop that open in TextMate. So this, in the similar fashion that we had our servlet responding to hello world, is just a simple Python handler. And Wes can definitely jump in since he's the Python expert here.
No, you can go ahead. Actually, change the name of your app to the one you have uploaded, and then you can upload this one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So here, I'm going to change this to that. I'll hit save. I'll go back to my utility and hit deploy. All right, so it's got all that saved. And it's firing off the deployment. Oh, I should have changed the oh well, we can do it again. But you get the idea. So I'm now deploying the Python version onto my cloud. And also, I should return back to the cloud dashboard, which is now different because now I actually have an application. Obviously, not much going on here log-wise. I'm not even sure if, yeah, I have, OK, I can put in like a fave icon, ICO, or whatever, and so forth. And of course, since I'm not working with data just yet, my data store viewer is not showing anything. I don't have cron jobs and task queues and so forth. But once I get an actually full functioning app, I would actually be able to step into all that stuff very easily. OK. So it deployed, and just for fun, I can go out and do the same thing. Let's see, boom.appspot.com. Oh, yeah, since I zoomed in. Oh, sorry, I got to refresh. The other one was still, there we go. Yeah. So that one doesn't have that index.html.
So you can see he actually did switch from the Java to the Python app.
Yeah, so anyway, I can jump back into our slides. That's just the getting started stuff. Apologies if you guys are already App Engine experts, but definitely for people who are new to it, it's definitely kind of gives you an idea of how to get started.
Notice which one was faster.
I showed debugging. Oh, well, anyway. I won't argue that one. That one's, yeah. So let's take a look at all these services and just kind of provide like a historical viewpoint of App Engine.
There'll be a quiz afterwards.
That's right. So, you know, it's 3 years old. We launched it in 2008. Back when it was launched, it was very simple. It had Python support, and then as time progressed, we started kind of adding on additional features. You know, Memcache came not too long, just, you know, better logging support. And then, of course, a very important event happened in 2009. That's the Java launch. That was a big deal.
I thought it was Fortran.
Yeah, that's coming next. So anyway.
Anybody remember the Fortran launch?
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
People didn't, I don't know. Anyway. So the Java launch came out. That opened up, you know, App Engine to a whole new set of developers. Some key things along the way: task queues, XMPP for building chatbots, which is actually part of our lab that we're doing later today. You can build your own chatbot with XMPP. Blob Store for just any kind of blob storage in the cloud. That was a very important feature. Came out end of 2009. Data store cursors. We announced App Engine for Business back last May. Multi-tenancy, high performance image surfing. So obviously, I'm not going to read every feature, but the main point here is that, as you can see, over time, we continuously add new features and services. And so in that sense, what the App Engine is today is not going to be the App Engine of, say, 6 months from now or a year from now. It's just going to be a continued set of features that you can take advantage of down the road. Also, I should say, very importantly, we launched High Replication Data Store, and of course, Channel API. But High Replication Data Store is actually a very important feature. It's a strategically important feature to App Engine in the sense that it's a new and more tolerant data storage technology that is immune from data latency spikes that sometimes have occurred in the past. So we definitely recommend people using this new technology. We're getting some of our key, actually most of our key partners are now switched over, and they're getting great results. Like WebFilings, for example, they have, you know, awesome results with the High Replication Data Store and so forth. So they're quite happy with it. All right. So and then also just in general, as you can see, the overall growth and just continuous growth of all the applications has resulted, obviously, in continuous interest from the overall large population. Okay, and then of course, looking to the future, we have, you know, continuous, you know, features with full map reduce, full text search, a new feature that we're introducing actually tomorrow, literally, this idea of background servers, so you can have long-running background services that just continue to do their thing. So like daemons, I guess, is a good way to call it. So yeah, as you can see, continuously adding, augmenting more features. So anyway, so we jump in. I want to show them also the sample application that we'll be doing in the BootCamp lab today. And what this sample application, actually I'll just give you a demo really quickly of how it works, and then I'll show you a little bit of how it was built, and then as a kind of like a sneak preview of how you can actually step through and build it yourself. So first of all, before I jump to the application, let me just tell you what it does. It uses the channel API. Actually, I'll step earlier. It actually uses URL fetch to go out and fetch news feeds, and it pulls them down into the local data store, and it keeps like a registry of fresh news feeds. And then a person can log in, or they don't actually log in, they just point their browser to a URL, and then once they've connected, the news feeds are then streamed down to the browser every 3 seconds or so. And so what that means is it's able to use like a comment push using the channel API down to any client browsers that have connected to this website. So in that sense, it's a really cool feature. You can have very rich interactive web pages. So in our example that we'll do in the bootcamp today is very simple. It's just grabbing an XML feed and stuffing it down into client browsers. But you could do any number of things. The data is data, so you can send down whatever you want and then use whatever visualization you want to, whether it's some type of visual graphs and things like that. You're totally welcome to do that. What we're doing in the bootcamp is very simple. We just grab some JSON and dump it into a div and gets updated very simply. So that's the application in a nutshell. We have both versions, Java and a Python, and if you come to the bootcamp, you'll be able to actually build that within the lab itself. So let's go ahead and just go to a version here, news channel dash, and then my email, cschalk@appspot.com. And you notice I have a pop-up here. What this means is that as I viewed the page, as it loaded, it actually created a connection to the server, and I clicked OK. And then the only other thing I need to do, so now I have a socket connection to the server of this demo application. I can then go to the same application. Oops, sorry. News channel. I just had it a second ago. There we go. And kick off a set of tasks. These are known as deferred tasks, which will then execute and queue up essentially a set of jobs that will go through and start pushing out updates to any client browsers. So as you can also see, I can pop open like a new window, make a connection, and I should also see the same updates in the same way. So anyway, just something fun that put together for the bootcamp lab that you're definitely welcome to build either in the lab itself or even also take home as exercise and continue to augment. Anything else you wanted to touch on that?
No, that's good.
OK. So let's step back over to our slides here. And of course, before we wrap up, just also wanted to provide you with like where the info is that you can learn about App Engine if you're just getting started. So code.google.com/App Engine is, of course, the very first place you'll want to go check it out. And actually, that's pretty much the home base. We also provide the blog. The blog is very important if you want to stay up to date with any latest information, obviously. Whenever we launch new APIs and services, we always get a blog post out so you can start trying it out. And of course, you can use your Google account to create your own App Engine account, essentially turn it on. So as typical Google fashion, as long as you have a Gmail or whatever, you get started, you can actually open it up and turn on your App Engine account within minutes, and then be able to start building applications and literally deploying them to the cloud. Anything else we wanted to mention before we switch into Q&A mode? Or?
So I think for the blog is actually interesting because in addition to content provided by us employees, we also, from time to time, invite our external developers and partners to also write blog posts about interesting products and tools that they're building on App Engine. So,
I'll just give you a quick test run through here. So as you can see, there's code.google.com/App Engine. I'll jump into the blog and I'll head back over to the docs really quickly. You may recognize this particular blog post we just did recently, which talks about how App Engine was used for the official royal wedding blog. And if I continue to scroll down, there's just a whole bunch of of technical information that's constantly coming out and how you can essentially learn what's the latest that's going on with App Engine. Is there any blogs? There was one that we had a WebFilings blog that explained how they were using the high replication data store, and it actually worked out to their advantage and allowed them to, here it is right here, allowed them to actually sign on some new Fortune 100 companies, which they're quite happy with it now. So there we go. Let me switch back to the docs, just so you get a basic idea. So obviously our developer's guide caters to both the Python and Java audience. So we have some nice getting started tutorials. This getting started with Java or Python is similar to the initial set of BootCamp labs that we're doing, but it's also kind of more simplistic. We actually extend upon these getting started labs just for a little bit more fun. So we get into email, XMPP, and so forth on the basic stuff. All righty. I'll switch back to the, oh, also very importantly, since App Engine itself is available open source, we have the project externally, and you can also log issues. So if you want to see a particular feature, you can log it in our issue tracker, and the team regularly goes through the issues and assigns priorities. Also, you can vote up features if you want. We actually have people want to see native PHP support still, so we're continuously looking into that. Obviously, that's a major engineering effort to do that, but yeah, we're definitely looking at it. Now, I should also say community, and this is something that Wes might even want to chime in here. As you can see, we have even responses coming from Wes. So we basically rely, for overall support, we rely on the overall App Engine community, plus we have people, Google engineers that are monitoring constantly and checking to see essentially what are people's issues that pop up. And like Wes will just jump in and help people out on the fly on certain technical issues. Okay. Right. So I think with that,
the forums have gurus too, and gurus
Yes.
are basically like a very experienced App Engine users that are not Google employees. So they're actually people that make their living building App Engine apps every day, and they contribute on the forums. Sometimes it's better to get another voice that doesn't belong to Google. So, and that's why we have these ambassadors of our forums, and a couple of them will be here at BootCamp as well as at I/O. So feel free to say hi to them. You'll find their names if you go to the forum, the About page.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're wrapping up with just like a plug for our App Engine Lab, which is coming up at 11:45.
Yep.
Pretty soon. I was thinking it was a little bit later, but yeah.
You're just hoping it was going to be a little later.
So definitely you can bring your lunch and come join us, and we'll be able to step through not only like the channel API, more advanced stuff, but just even if you're getting started, we'll be more than happy to help you get it started. So at this point, I think we can kind of open it up if we have any.
Actually, before we get into Q&A, one more thing I wanted to say about apps, because a lot of people come and actually ask us this. They go, well, it's great. You have this web tool. It's a great execution platform and stuff. But what if I don't want to build a web app? Can I build an app that's not user-facing? And the answer is absolutely yes. We actually have another class of apps where people are building mobile applications, where the front end that's user-facing is actually on a phone, but they need some sort of back-end system, to maybe hold high scores or leveling or medals or whatever. So, with App Engine, all you really need is to be able to post something to us and, from the phone app, and we can, effectively help you with that app to give it a more rich experience. So, for example, users can check their high scores on a website instead of just on their mobile phone. Or if for some reason, they lost their phone or it dropped in the toilet or something, when they get a new phone, they don't want to have to redo everything from scratch, right? So if you store all these things with a back-end system like an App Engine, then you can provide your users a much more rich experience. And so, yeah, so the answer to that question is no, it doesn't have to always be user-facing. It doesn't have to be a web app. It's just, you can have any kind of front end, but you can use App Engine as your back end because of the same reasons why we described why you would want to build a web app, because you want that scalability. You want to be able to take advantage of all of the infrastructure that Google has spent many, many years building out, and to make our app scalable, right? So you guys can actually get that to take advantage of that. So, yeah, so that's just one of the last use cases I wanted to mention before we get to Q&A. So.
So yeah, I was just putting up the QR code here really quickly. Sorry, I was just going to
All right.
fix that.
Yes, question.
appspot.com, all the apps have to have the URL appspot.com.
Have to is a different word. They automatically get one.
Yeah, so what if you are, your own domain and you don't want to expose people?
Yeah, you can just create a CNAME to it.
That's right. And we did put our Twitter handles here. So we're going to probably try to keep any helpful information. So you're welcome to follow either Wes or me or both of us for our any updates on Twitter.
The App Engine one. You should put the App Engine one up there too.
Oh, well,
It's
yeah.
at app_engine.
We just
You don't have to do it now.
Oh, I could add it right now?
Well, just do it now then.
Now that we started it.
Yeah.
There we go. app engine, right?
Underscore.
Yeah,
App
there we go.
underscore. No, engine. No app. Just engine. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I guess I'm not following that.
Sorry. And that's sort of maintained by like our entire team, except Chris.
Apparently. So, anyway.
All right. Anybody have questions that we can't answer?
I was going to say also a recommendation.
It's all confidential. We can't tell you.
I was going to say a recommendation for this afternoon. Please, if you're new to App Engine and you want to come to the BootCamp Lab, please check the website for the prerequisites.
Yeah, make sure you have everything downloaded, installed, because we don't want to spend the first half of the lab doing installation.
On the Java side, you definitely want to make sure you get your JDK, get Eclipse set up before you actually attend the lab, and just it'll save you time. You'll have much more enjoyable experience at the BootCamp Lab. Same for Python. Just make sure you're good to go. That's typically less in steps for getting started, but yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, I know. So, any other final questions as we start to wrap up?
Question?
Guys good
Yes.
to go?
Go ahead.
Do you not use Eclipse for the Python development?
You can. You can if you want.
There's a plugin called PyDev, Pydev. That's the most popular one. I think there's two others, but that's the one that most people use if you're developing Python using Eclipse. Python has many other IDEs as well. But yeah, if you want to stay within Eclipse, it's easier to do it that way.
Yeah. Got a question back there?
Question?
So the question is, can you install the Android plugin in addition to the Eclipse plugin for App Engine? As far as I know, I believe so. I've had it on my system. On my current system right now, it's different, but we're getting confirmation that
There's a lot of people saying yes up here.
Yeah, so I would say go for it. I think it's fine. I think as people are starting to get ready for the next session, we should probably go ahead and get ready to, a few more questions? Yes, go ahead.
Just post and get. Yeah. There's no API,
Yeah.
right?
So the question was basically Android and App Engine interactivity. So essentially, you can use HTTP, GET, POST, and so forth, and there's no problem in that sense.
Right.
We have numerous.
If you go back into the blog and look, like in August, there's an example post that was made by myself and another Android developer that talks about their experiences building a backend on App Engine for their Android app.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to thank you guys. Welcome.
All right.
Thanks. Hope you guys
Thank
have
you.
a lot of success.
Have a great boot camp.
And good luck with App Engine.